The Galactic Council panics as humans end all diplomacy. The great chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with low, uneasy energy. Tall spires of polished obsidian rose toward a ceiling that shimmered like a starfield frozen in time. Delegates from 37 species sat in tiered arcs, their forms as varied as the worlds they represented. Some had too many eyes, others none at all. Some communicated through scent, others through pulses of colored light. But today every one of them watched the same thing, a single human standing alone on the central dais. His name was Daniel Carter. He wore a plain gray suit, no medals, no insignia, just the simple uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. His face was calm, his hands clasped behind his back. He had not spoken in over a minute, and that silence was louder than any speech. Finally, he took a breath and spoke in clear, unaccented standard, a language most species used for interstellar communication. Effective immediately, he said, Earth and all human colonies withdraw from the Galactic Council. We will no longer participate in joint security operations, trade accords, scientific exchanges, or diplomatic summits. All embassies will be closed within 24 hours. All human personnel recalled. No exceptions. A ripple went through the chamber. The Krell delegate, a six-limbed insectoid with chitinous plates clicking in agitation, leaned forward. On what grounds? It hissed through its translator. You cannot simply walk away. The Treaty of Concord binds you. Daniel didn't flinch. The Treaty of Concord assumed mutual respect and honesty. We no longer believe those exist. Before anyone could respond, he turned and walked off the dais. No bow, no farewell, no explanation. The doors slid shut behind him with a soft sigh, as if the building itself was holding its breath. In the stunned silence that followed, panic began to spread like a virus. On the far side of the chamber, near a soul of the Veln, a tall, amphibious being with smooth green skin and large black eyes, exchanged a worried glance with her aide. The Veln had always seen humans as unpredictable but honorable. This felt different. Cold, final. Counselor Tarnvex of the Soren, a crystalline life form that refracted light with every subtle shift of its form, pulsed a deep violet. This is not withdrawal, it chimed through its resonator. This is a declaration. A declaration of what? Asked a small avian delegate from the Keel system. Of independence, Tarnvex replied. Or war. Back on Earth, President Laura Bennett stood on the balcony of the Global Unity Complex in Geneva. The morning sun warmed her face as she watched drones glide silently between the towers of the rebuilt city. Below, citizens went about their day, walking, talking, working. None of them knew yet what had just happened in the galactic capital, but they would soon. She turned as her chief of staff, Owen Price, stepped onto the balcony with a data pad. It's done, he said quietly. Carter transmitted the message and boarded the shuttle. He'll be back in orbit within the hour. Laura nodded. She was in her late 50s with silver threading through her dark hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. Did they react? Like we expected. Confusion first, then fear. Good, she said. Let them be afraid. Owen hesitated. Are we sure about this, Laura? Cutting all ties. It's a huge risk. The Krell alone have fleets 10 times our size. She looked out at the city again. Size doesn't win wars anymore, Owen. Ideas do. And we've spent the last 20 years building something they can't see, can't track, and can't stop. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility known only as Site Theta, engineers ran final diagnostics on a new class of stealth drives. These drives didn't just hide ships. They erased them from sensor logs, from memory, from causality itself for brief moments. Human scientists called it temporal masking. The rest of the galaxy didn't even know such a thing was possible. Meanwhile, on the outer rim of human space, freighter captain Marcus Boone guided his ship, the Raven's Wing, through a quiet asteroid belt near Helios Prime. His cargo was unmarked, his transponder off. He'd received new orders an hour ago. Avoid all non-human vessels. No greetings, no scans, no contact. As if on cue, 2 Veln patrol cutters dropped out of warp nearby, their sleek blue hulls glinting in the starlight. Standard procedure. They scanned all civilian traffic in this sector. One hailed him in Veln, then switched to standard. Unidentified human vessel, powered down and prepare for inspection. Marcus didn't answer. He tapped a sequence into his console. The Raven's wing flickered just for a fraction of a second and then vanished from their sensors. The Veln ship spun in confusion, scanning empty space. By the time they recalibrated, Marcus was already 3 light minutes away, slipping into the shadow of a gas giant. News of the incident reached the Council within hours. At first they thought it was a glitch. But when 3 more human ships disappeared under similar circumstances, the mood shifted from confusion to alarm. Back in the chamber, Illyra Voss, the Council's chief of intelligence, stood before the emergency subcommittee. Her species, the Mireth, resembled slender humanoids with opalescent skin and eyes that changed color with emotion. Right now hers were a stormy gray. "We've lost contact with 12 human outposts," she said. "No distress calls. No signals. Just silence. And our attempts to send envoys have been met with automated warnings. Approach at your own risk." "What do they want?" asked a young delegate from the Row cluster. Illyra paused. "I don't think they want anything from us anymore. That's what scares me." On Earth, in a quiet lab in Colorado, Dr. Grace Holloway reviewed the final test results of the Echo Array. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It didn't fire beams or missiles. Instead, it sent out a quantum resonance pulse that could disrupt neural networks, disable AI cores, and scramble shipboard systems across an entire fleet, all without a single explosion. The first successful test had disabled a derelict Krell scout ship from 5,000 kilometers away. The Krell never even knew what hit them. Grace closed the report and looked out the window at the snow-covered pines. She thought of her daughter, now in school on Luna, safe for now. She hoped it would stay that way. In Geneva, President Bennett addressed the world that evening. Her speech was broadcast to every human colony, every station, every ship. "For too long," she said, "we played by rules written by others. Rules that kept us small, kept us quiet, kept us obedient. No more. Humanity is no longer asking for a seat at the table. We are building our own." She didn't mention the Echo Array. She didn't mention the stealth drives or the hidden shipyards orbiting Neptune. She didn't need to. The message was clear enough: we are done being controlled. By the next morning, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Emergency sessions ran nonstop. Species that had trusted humans for decades now whispered about betrayal. Others wondered if this was the beginning of something far worse. But on Earth, in homes and labs and shipyards, people worked quietly, steadily. They knew what was coming, and for the first time in a long time, they weren't afraid. They were ready. The Galactic Council panics as humans end all diplomacy. Part 2 panic spread through the corridors of the Galactic Council like a silent storm. Delegates who once walked with calm purpose now hurried in hushed groups, their voices low and urgent. The Great Chamber, once a symbol of unity, felt more like a cage filled with nervous animals. No one knew what humans would do next, and that uncertainty was worse than any threat. Council Intelligence Chief Illyra Voss spent her days buried in reports that made less and less sense. Human ships were vanishing from known routes. Human outposts went dark without warning. Trade convoys that used to carry grain, medicine, and machine parts now sailed empty, or didn't sail at all. Every attempt to contact Earth was met with silence. Not static, not error messages, just nothing. On the frontier world of Helios Prime, things grew stranger. The Veln patrol that had tried to inspect Marcus Boone's freighter filed an official complaint. Their sensors had recorded the Raven's wing one moment, then blank space the next. They ran diagnostics, checked logs, even brought in engineers from 3 systems away. Nothing explained it. The ship had not cloaked. It had simply ceased to exist in their data stream, as if it had never been there. Marcus, meanwhile, docked quietly at Helios Station 7. He unloaded his cargo, crates marked only with a small blue hawk symbol, and walked straight to a waiting shuttle. No one asked questions. No one even looked at him twice. The station staff had been given new orders. Human business was human business. Let it pass. Back on Veln Prime, Delegate Nerasol argued with her superiors. "We cannot treat this as hostility," she insisted. "Humans have never broken treaties lightly. If they walked away, there is a reason. But they gave no reason," snapped Fleet Marshal Kor. "That is the problem. Silence is a weapon." Nera didn't answer. She remembered the joint rescue mission 5 years ago, when a Veln transport crashed on a frozen moon. Human medics had worked through the night, saving over 200 lives. They'd asked for nothing in return. That was not the act of a species planning betrayal. Yet now Earth's silence felt like a wall. On Earth, life continued as if nothing had changed. Children went to school. Factories hummed. Trains ran on time. But beneath the surface, everything had shifted. Military drills increased. So civil defense alerts were updated weekly. And in orbit, new platforms drifted into position, sleek, dark, and utterly silent. Admiral Grace Holloway stood on the observation deck of Lunar Command, watching one of those platforms rotate slowly against the black. It looked like a simple communications relay, but inside, it held the first node of the Echo Array. Soon there would be dozens more, forming a net around human space. Her aide, a young officer named Jake Morrison, handed her a data slate. All colonies report readiness, he said. Neptune shipyards finished the last stealth frigate yesterday. They're calling it the Shadow. Grace nodded. Good. We won't need to fire a shot if they believe we can. That was the plan. Not to fight, but to make fighting pointless. If the Council thought every human ship could disappear, every base could go dark, every fleet could be disabled before it even launched, they might think twice before attacking. But not everyone in the Council was thinking. Some were reacting. A Krell scouting armada, 6 heavy cruisers and 2 command vessels, left their home system with orders to find out what humans were hiding. They moved fast, cutting through neutral space without warning. Their commander, High Claw Vrak, believed in strength, not talk. If humans will not speak, he told his crew, we will make them. They arrived near the edge of human-controlled space and began scanning. Nothing. No signals. No ships, no stations, just empty stars and drifting ice. Then, without warning, their long-range sensors blinked. A human fleet, dozens of vessels, appeared on the edge of detection. The Krell ships powered up weapons, sent hails, prepared for battle. But the humans did not respond. They did not move, they just sat there. Vrak ordered a closer approach. As his lead cruiser crossed into the human perimeter, every system on board went dark. Lights died. Engines stalled. Life support flickered. Even the crew's neural implants, used for ship control, went silent. For 37 seconds, the Krell ship floated, blind and helpless. Then, just as suddenly, everything came back online. The human fleet was gone. No weapons fire. No explosions, no debris. Just empty space where dozens of ships had been moments before. Vrak stared at his screens, his mandibles twitching in disbelief. What was that? He whispered. No one answered. The report reached the Council within hours. This time panic turned to fear. The Krell were one of the strongest military powers in the galaxy. If humans could disable their ships without firing a single shot, what hope did anyone else have? Councillor Tarnvex called for an emergency session. We must assume humanity now possesses technology beyond our understanding, it chimed. They are not retreating. They are preparing. For what? Asked a small reptilian delegate. For control, Tarnvex replied. Or judgment. On Earth, President Laura Bennett reviewed the Krell incident with quiet satisfaction. The Echo Array test had worked better than expected. The pulse had reached farther, lasted longer, and caused less collateral damage than simulations predicted. It was clean, precise, terrifying. She turned to Owen Price. Let them wonder, she said. Fear of the unknown is the oldest weapon we have. Meanwhile, on Mars, engineers at Site Theta activated the second-generation stealth drive. This one didn't just hide ships, it made them appear elsewhere for a few seconds, creating false echoes across enemy sensors. A single frigate could look like an entire fleet, or vanish while seeming to stay in place. In human colonies across the Orion Arm, people noticed changes. More patrols, stricter comms protocols, but also a strange calm. There were no riots, no panic buying, no mass evacuations. Humans had faced extinction before, during the resource wars, during the AI uprising, during the first alien contact. They knew how to stand firm. Back at the Council, Elira Voss pulled every contact she had. She reached out to old friends in human intelligence, former colleagues from joint missions, even a retired Earth ambassador living quietly on a garden moon. All she got was silence. Then one night a message arrived. Not through official channels, not encrypted or flagged, just a plain text file sent to her private terminal. It read, "You were always fair to us. Watch the stars. Truth is coming." Elira stared at the words for a long time. She didn't know who sent it. But for the first time since humans walked away, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this wasn't about war. Maybe it was about something else entirely. But in the halls of power, few shared her hope. Fleet movements increased. Weapons were loaded. Alliances were tested. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next move. And on Earth, in quiet labs and hidden shipyards, humans kept working. They knew the truth, and soon, everyone else would too. The Galactic Council panics as humans end all diplomacy part. 3. The Krell scouting armada did not return. Not in pieces, not in distress, not at all. 6 cruisers and 2 command vessels, over 3,000 lives, vanished beyond the edge of human space, and no signal ever came back. The silence was absolute. At first, the Council assumed malfunction or miscommunication. But when search drones found only empty corridors and cold engines drifting in the void, dread settled over every delegation like a heavy fog. Counselor Tarn Vex called for immediate action. "We cannot wait for humans to strike first," it chimed, its crystalline form pulsing with sharp red light. "They have shown they can disable our ships without warning. If they choose to destroy instead of disable, how many fleets will disappear before we react?" Nearasol of the Veln stood slowly. "Or," she said, her voice calm but firm, "they disabled the Krell to send a message. Not to kill, to warn." "Warnings do not vanish entire squadrons," snapped a reptilian delegate from the Xylos conquered. "They do if the warning is meant to be heard," Nera replied. But reason was losing ground. Fear had taken hold. In the lower levels of the Council spire, junior aides whispered about human weapons that could erase matter, about viruses that rewrote DNA, about ships that moved through time itself. None of it was true, but truth mattered less than belief now. On Earth, none of this caused panic. In fact, life felt quieter than ever. Streets were clean. Power grids ran smoothly. Children played in parks under skies watched by silent orbital sentinels. The human government had not declared war. It had not even raised its voice. But everyone knew something big was coming. Deep in the Oort cloud, far beyond Pluto, a hidden shipyard stirred. Massive hangar doors slid open in the dark, revealing a fleet unlike any seen before. Sleek hulls, no visible weapons, no running lights, just smooth black surfaces that drank starlight. These were the new stealth frigates built using quantum phase alloys and powered by zero-signature drives. They made no heat, no radiation, no comms chatter. To standard sensors, they simply did not exist. Admiral Grace Holloway stood on the command deck of the lead vessel, the Vigil. Her hands rested lightly on the railing as she watched the final ships power up. "All systems green," reported Jake Morrison from the tactical station. "Echo array nodes are synchronized across the fleet." Grace nodded. "Good, we won't need to fire, but they need to believe we will." The plan was simple: show strength without violence. Let the Council see what humanity could do, and what it chose not to do. Mercy, when you hold all the power, speaks louder than force. Back at the Council, Elira Voss studied the latest intel. Human colonies were reinforcing orbital defenses, but not with guns or missiles. The new platforms looked like communication relays or solar collectors. Yet every time a Council probe got close, it lost signal. Not jammed, just gone. Like the Krell ships. She pulled up old files. Decades of joint missions, shared research, peace talks. Humans had always been odd. They asked too many questions. They challenged rules. They refused to accept because we said so as an answer. Maybe that was why they left. Maybe they finally found something the Council didn't want them to see. Her terminal pinged. Another anonymous message. This one contained coordinates and a single line. Look where the first lie was buried. She didn't know what it meant. But she saved it. Meanwhile, on Luna, President Laura Bennett met with Owen Price in a secure bunker beneath the Sea of Serenity. Holograms flickered around them. Maps of human space, fleet positions, Council movements. "They're close to breaking," Owen said. "Tarn Vex is pushing for a preemptive strike on Mars." Laura sipped her coffee. "Let them try." "They have numbers, Laura, real numbers. And we have truth," she said. "That's heavier than ships," she tapped a command. A new file opened. Ancient data recovered from a derelict probe near the Kuiper Belt. Buried in its core was a message, written in a dead language, from a species that vanished millions of years ago. It spoke of a galactic order built not on peace but control, It named the founders of the council, not as peacemakers but as enforcers who crushed faster-than-light communication to keep younger species divided. Humans had spent years verifying it, cross-checking with ruins on dead moons, with fragments found in asteroid cores, with patterns in cosmic background radiation. It was all true. The council had lied from the beginning. On the edge of human space, the silent fleet waited. No one saw them. No one even knew they were there. Then, without warning, every human colony broadcast the same signal, a low-frequency pulse that bypassed normal comms and resonated directly with neural implants and ship AI cores. It wasn't a message in words. It was a key, and it unlocked something deep in the data archives of every council species. Across the galaxy, beings who had never questioned the council's authority suddenly saw files they were never meant to see. Records of suppressed tech, logs of staged conflicts, evidence that the Great Peace was really a cage. On Veln Prime, Narration stared at her screen, her large eyes wide. She saw orders signed by her own government, orders to sabotage human trade routes during the Unity crisis, all under council direction. She'd been told it was for stability. Now she knew it was for control. In the Krell hive mind network, a ripple of confusion spread. Young warriors questioned why they were taught to fear humans when old battle logs showed humans saving Krell civilians during the Dust Plague. Even Tarn Vex, in its crystalline chamber, pulsed with uncertain light as it reviewed documents that contradicted everything it had been taught. The galaxy was waking up, and the council was crumbling from within. Back in the Oort cloud, Grace Holloway gave the order. Deploy the Echo Array, full resonance, non-lethal pulse only. The Vigil and its sister ships activated their systems. A wave of quantum energy rolled outward, not to destroy but to reveal. It passed through fleets, stations, and worlds, waking dormant data, unlocking sealed archives, and lighting up the truth like a flare in the dark. No explosions followed. No shots were fired. But something far more powerful happened. Trust broke. And once trust was gone, empires fell. On Earth, Laura Bennett stepped outside the bunker and looked up at the stars. She didn't smile. This wasn't victory. It was justice. And justice was never easy. In the silence of space, the human fleet held its position, waiting, watching, ready, not to conquer, but to free. The Galactic Council panics as humans end. All diplomacy, Part 4 chaos, spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The truth released by the human pulse did not come as words or speeches. It came as data, raw, undeniable, and buried for centuries. Every species that had trusted the Council now found proof that their trust had been used against them. Trade routes had been sabotaged not by rivals but by Council agents. Wars had been prolonged not for peace but for profit. And the greatest lie of all, the ban on faster-than-light communication, had been enforced not to prevent conflict, but to keep young civilizations isolated and weak. On Veln Prime, riots broke out in the capital. Citizens gathered in the great water plazas, holding up glowing tablets showing the hidden files. Narration stood before her people, her voice shaking as she admitted she had not known. "We were lied to," she said. "All of us." Her government fell within hours. In the Krell hives, the warrior caste turned on the ruling broodmind. Young Krell demanded answers. Why had they been sent to die in pointless border skirmishes? Why had human aid been blocked during the famine cycles? The hive mind fractured under the weight of doubt. Even the Soren, long seen as the moral heart of the Council, struggled to hold their unity. Tarnvek sat alone in its chamber, light dimmed to a dull gray. It had spent its life believing in order, in structure, in the Council's guiding hand. Now that hand was revealed as a fist. Elira Voss watched it all from her office in the Council spire. The building, once full of purpose, now felt like a tomb. Delegates packed their things. Security forces stood idle. The great chamber sat empty, its starfield ceiling flickering with errors no one bothered to fix. She opened the message she'd received days before. "Look where the first lie was buried," and entered the coordinates into a private shuttle. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Her ship jumped to the edge of the Kuiper Belt, near a dead moon humans called Thorn's Rest. There, half buried in ice, sat a small probe, ancient, rusted but intact. Its markings matched those in the leaked files. Inside, she found logs, star charts, and a final message from the last survivors of the Zenth, a species erased from history books. They had built the first FTL comms array. The Council's founders destroyed it, and them. Alira sat in silence for a long time. Then she sent everything she found to every major news network, every planetary archive, every rebel cell she could reach. If humans had started the fire, she would make sure it burned clean. On Earth, people watched the galaxy unravel on their screens. There was no celebration, no gloating, just quiet resolve. They had known the truth for years. Now others knew it too. President Laura Bennett met with Grace Holloway and Owen Price in the same bunker beneath the Sea of Serenity. Holograms showed systems breaking away from the Council, forming new alliances, demanding answers. "They're asking for us to speak," Owen said. "Not as enemies. As witnesses," Laura nodded. "Then we will, but not yet. First, they had to make sure the old system could never return." Deep in the Neptune shipyards, engineers finished installing the final Echo Array node. This one was different. It wasn't meant to disable ships or unlock data. It was a broadcast tower, and what it would send out next would change everything. On Mars, scientists prepared open-source files, schematics for clean fusion reactors, medical nanites that could heal any injury, atmospheric processors that could turn dead worlds green, all of it human-made, all of it free. Back in the Oort cloud, the silent fleet remained hidden, but their mission was shifting. They were no longer shields. They were messengers. Alira Voss returned to the Council spire to find it nearly empty. Only a few delegates remained, those too loyal or too afraid to leave. She walked into the great chamber and activated the central comms array. Then she played the Zenth message for all to hear. Counselor Tarn Vex appeared on the balcony above, its form glowing faintly. "You betray us," it chimed. "No," Alira said. "I free us." Tarn Vex fell silent. After a long moment, it turned and walked away. News of the Zenth probe spread faster than any warship. Species that had never questioned authority now demanded change. The Council's remaining fleets received conflicting orders. Some captains refused to move. Others defected outright, and through it all, humans said nothing. They did not gloat. They did not invade. They simply stood back and let the truth do its work. Then one morning, every human colony went live at once. From Earth to Titan, from Proxima b to the outer colonies, humans broadcast the same signal. Not a weapon, not a threat, a gift. The open-source files poured into the galactic network. Any species anywhere could download the plans, build their own reactors, heal their own sick, talk to each other across light years without Council permission. On a dusty world near the Rim, a young engineer from the Keel system built a working fusion core from human schematics in 3 days. On Veln Prime, doctors used human nanites to cure a plague that had killed thousands. In the Krell hives, new leaders used human atmospheric tech to restore poisoned breeding grounds. For the first time in centuries, hope spread faster than fear. The Council tried to block the signal. They rerouted networks, shut down relays, even destroyed a few human data buoys. But it was useless. The files were already everywhere. Copied, shared, rebroadcast by 1,000 new voices. Laura Bennett finally stepped before the cameras. Not in uniform, not with soldiers behind her. Just her, in a simple blue jacket standing in a garden on Earth. "We never wanted to rule you," she said. "We just wanted you to be free." She didn't ask for thanks. She didn't demand loyalty. She simply said, "The future is yours to build. We'll be here if you need us." Then she turned off the feed. In the ruins of the Council spire, Alira Voss watched the broadcast with tears in her eyes. She had spent her life serving an empire built on lies. Now she would help build something real, and far out in the dark. The human fleet powered down its weapons. Their job was done. The Galactic Council panics as humans end all diplomacy, Part 5. The old council was gone, not destroyed by war, not erased by weapons, but dissolved by truth. Its great spire still stood empty and echoing, a monument to a system that had ruled through secrets and fear. Delegates who once held power now walked the streets of their home worlds as ordinary citizens. Some welcomed, others shunned. The galaxy did not burn, it breathed. For the first time in centuries, it breathed freely. A new message arrived at every major world, every colony, every ship that still carried a working comms array. It came not from Earth, but from a single human vessel named the Odyssey. The ship drifted alone near the ruins of the Council's central relay station, its hull unmarked, its engines silent. No weapons were visible, no demands were made. On board, engineer Jake Morrison and xenolinguist Priya Desai prepared the final transmission. They had not come to negotiate. They had come to give. The message opened with simple words in over 200 languages. "This is not ours to keep. It is yours to use." Then came the files. Not just energy schematics or medical designs, but full educational archives. Human history, science, art, philosophy. Instructions for growing food in poisoned soil. Methods for cleaning oceans. Blueprints for schools, hospitals, and libraries. Everything humanity had learned, tested, and improved over centuries, offered without cost, without strings, without control. On Veln Prime, Nira Sol stood in a newly formed assembly hall, watching as her people down low read the files. Children gathered around floating screens, learning human math and music. Farmers studied crop rotation techniques that could double their yields. Doctors practiced with virtual simulations of human surgical tools. There was no suspicion, no fear, only hunger for a better life. In the Krell hives, young warriors traded their armor for tool belts. They used human atmospheric processors to cleanse the air in their lower chambers, where the old brood mind had let pollution build for generations. For the first time, Krell hatchlings breathed clean air. Even Tarnvex, once a pillar of the old order, emerged from isolation. It traveled to a neutral station near the Orion Arm, where representatives from dozens of species gathered, not as enemies but as neighbors. There it met Priya Desai in person. "You could have ruled us," Tarnvex chimed, its light soft and steady. "We never wanted to rule anyone," Priya replied. "We just wanted you to see what you were capable of." Tarnvex pulsed slowly, as if absorbing the weight of those words. Then it extended a crystalline limb in the human gesture of handshake. Priya took it gently. Back on Earth, life returned to a quiet rhythm. The emergency alert stopped. The orbital defenses powered down to standby. Children played in parks without thinking about fleets or treaties. In classrooms, teachers spoke not of war, but of discovery, of connection, of responsibility. President Laura Bennett walked through the Global Unity Complex garden, her hands in her pockets. Owen Price joined her, holding a tablet showing real-time data from across human space. Trade was resuming, not under council rules, but through direct agreements between colonies and other species. Human engineers were already working with Veln architects on shared habitat designs. Krell metallurgists exchanged notes with Martian foundries. "It's working," Owen said. "It always would," Laura replied. "People just needed a chance to choose for themselves." Deep beneath the surface of Mars, Site Theta shut down its stealth drive production line. The machines powered off one by one, their work complete. The last frigate, the Shadow, was already in orbit, its systems cold. It would remain there, not as a threat, but as a reminder that peace must be protected, not just wished for. Admiral Grace Holloway stood on the lunar observation deck once more. But this time she was not watching weapons. She watched ships, human, Veln, even a small Krell transport, docking together at a new joint station near the moon. No flags, no borders, just open bays and shared airlocks. Jake Morrison returned from the Odyssey mission and walked straight to his sister's house in Colorado. She greeted him with a hug and a plate of warm bread. No questions about the mission. No talk of the past. Just home. In the outer colonies, Marcus Boone guided the Raven's Wing through a quiet sector near Helios Prime. This time, when a Veln patrol hailed him, he answered. They exchanged cargo manifests, shared weather reports from nearby systems, and parted with a simple safe travels. No inspections. No tension. Just trust. Elira Voss helped form the first Interstellar Accord, a loose network of species committed to open knowledge, mutual aid, and no hidden rules. It had no capital, no army, no council. Just a shared promise. Never again would truth be locked away. And on a small schoolyard on Luna, a group of children, human, Veln, and one wide-eyed Krell hatchling, played a game using a ball made from recycled ship plating. They laughed in 3 different languages but understood each other perfectly. The galaxy was not perfect. Old wounds would take time to heal. Some would still cling to the past. But the path forward was clear now. Not through force. Not through fear. But through choice, humanity had not conquered the stars. They had simply shown others how to reach them. And as night fell over Earth, Laura Bennett looked up at the sky, not with worry, but with quiet pride. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were neighbors, friends, partners. The silence that once meant danger now meant peace, and for the first time in a long time, the future felt bright.